I got a message from a stranger last week about a videotape. Said they saw something at this weird video store. Something about Zachary. I hadn't heard Zachary's name in years. Not since they found bits of him buried deep in the Colton Lake 5 summers ago. It was one of the worst things to happen around these parts in recent memory. The manhunt for whoever, or whatever, did it dragged on for months, but eventually the trail went cold, and the horror of it all faded from everybody's minds. Not mine, though. There's a tape in Video Vagabond, they wrote. It shows everything that happened that night, the real story. I'm writing this to warn others about the video store on Chivers Way. Not because what's on those tapes isn't true, but because some truths are better left buried. Some memories should stay at the bottom of lakes. If you don't know Everett, Wyoming, that's not surprising. We're the kind of tiny agricultural town where the winters bite hard and the summers bake you into dust. We're hanging on by the skin of our teeth thanks to corn production and not much else. Everett's a 2-hour straight shot off the Wyoming-Colorado elbow on Highway 89, just far enough from anything important to feel like the middle of nowhere. Folks here are practical and stubborn as hell. They still drive around in boxy old Chevys from the 80s, wear jeans that have seen 3 decades and twice as many repairs, and use landlines because cell towers don't like it out here. But even Everett's moved on from the days of VHS. These days, you'll find dusty Blu-ray players sitting next to even dustier cable boxes, all humming their slow death songs. The only video store in town was once a Blockbuster. It squats on the outskirts of Everett, a hollowed-out shell with cracked windows and a sign so faded you'd swear it was printed in sepia. For the better part of 9 years, it's been left to grow its own ecosystem. Dandelions pushing through the parking lot, windows busted out. Most folks drive by without a second glance, dismissing it as just another casualty of time. But for a few, those in the know, it's something else. A perfect vessel, a doorway for Video Vagabond. I don't know if that's its real name. Story goes that some Reddit user called it that in a Creepypasta thread about a decade back, and it just stuck. The weird thing is, the curator seems to like it. These days, you'll hear that little entry bell chime and that booming voice from somewhere in the back. Welcome to Video Vagabond. Like it's tickled by the whole thing, playing along with its own internet fame. There's a whole subreddit dedicated to Video Vagabond sightings, if you're curious. Fair warning, though, that place is more obituary than forum these days. You'll see users, people who used to post daily, had thousands of karma, whole communities they were part of, just going dark one night and never coming back. No goodbye posts, no deleted accounts, just silence. Scroll deep enough and you'll find dozens of going to try it tonight. Posts that end up being that user's last activity. Doesn't take a genius to figure out what happened. But I was careful, and I did my homework, so if you think you've got what it takes, go for it. But seriously, this is real stuff. This isn't some myth, some small-town superstition. It's real and it's not be messed with. There's a master post with a list of instructions on how to summon Video Vagabond. It's years old, and doesn't always yield results, but if anybody else has come up with a better way, I've yet to find it. It was posted by a real veteran of the Video Vagabond subreddit, who said he'd visited the archives over 80 times. If you click on his profile, the last few posts of his get really whack. My advice? Make this a one-time thing. Anyway, here's what worked for me. First things first. You need a proper dead video store. And I mean dead. Not some place that's been turned into a vape shop or one of those hipster joints selling VHS tapes to collectors. You want the real deal, a hollow shell with boards on the windows and weeds growing through the parking lot cracks. That old Blockbuster on Chivers Way was perfect for me, but Video Vagabond isn't picky. Any abandoned video store will do, as long as it's got enough dust and decay to its name. Trust me, there are more of these fossils out there than you'd think, especially if you know where to look. Small towns, forgotten strips of highway, you get the idea. Show up around midnight. Doesn't have to be precise, but somewhere in that dead zone when the normal world's gone to sleep. Here's the important part. You've got to play your role. Go up to that door and give it a good tug, even if there isn't one hanging anymore. Really sell it. Act disappointed, like you honestly expected a video store that's been dead for 15 years to be open. Say something out loud. "Aw man, they're closed," or wonder when they open. Hell, check your watch if you want to really ham it up. The curator likes to be wanted. Then it's a waiting game. Park yourself in front of the video store and watch. If the curator isn't in the mood, you won't see Jack and the sun will rise. This is how you know you've been snubbed or didn't put on enough of a show. Go home, get some sleep, come back and try again. Otherwise, things start to get interesting. It'll be different for everyone, but some weird stuff will start happening that'll tell you it's go time. In the past, some Reddit users claimed they suddenly heard old movie trailers from the 80s echoing from inside the old buildings, even when there was no light or movement. Others looked away and then back to notice that, out of nowhere, there were brand new posters suddenly plastered on clean windows, boasting 1 new release and 2 weekly rentals for $9.99. For me, it was the old Blockbuster sign suddenly flickering to life, painting the overgrown car park in neon blue light. Like I said, you'll know it when you see it. Here's where it gets particular. Walk around the building, counterclockwise, staying as close to the walls as you can without hugging them. Go clockwise, and everything shuts down faster than a power outage. Posters vanish, trailers cut off mid-sentence, lights die. Back to square one. Make 3 full circles. No more, no less. First pass, you'll see a new door appear, heavy commercial type with that yellowish security glass and a red closed sign. Second lap changes the whole building, like someone hit rewind and took it back to 1985. Third time around, that closed sign flips to open in neon green. Do not go in. Don't even touch the handle. This is offering time. You need a photo of someone dead. Doesn't matter how they died or who they were, but it's got to be clear as day. Can be a copy, a printout, whatever, just needs to come from a real photo, not something cooked up in Photoshop. Slip it through the mail slot and take 1 step back. Just 1. You'll hear footsteps, see a shadow move behind that stippled glass. Watch the curator bend down to check out your offering. If the photo's not up to snuff, it'll come right back through the slot and everything goes dark. Try again another night. But if the curator likes what it sees, you'll hear one of 2 things.
"We've got some gnarly specials on today, my guy. Come on in."
If you hear that, turn around and walk away. Don't run, don't look back, just walk. Those Reddit users who got curious about that particular invitation, nobody's logged in for a long, long time. The second response, and the one you want, is a simple,
"What are you doing just standing out there? Ain't it cold?"
That's your green light. Open the door, step inside. Try not to look too taken aback. The curator appreciates a bit of theatrics, but the consensus is you've got to treat the place like a real video store. And not many people walk into one and have a breakdown. The nostalgia hits you like a truck. That brown carpet with the weird yellow geometric pattern that somehow every video store had. Fluorescent lights doing their stuttering dance overhead. White walls that aren't quite white anymore. And that smell. Musty carpet, cleaning spray, and something else. Something older. The whole place is laid out in that classic rectangular pattern, long aisles with vertical shelves absolutely packed with VHS tapes. The counter's right where you'd expect it to be, this big oval island near the entrance. It's got all the greatest hits of 80s retail. Brick of a computer that looks like it's running DOS. Chunky landline phone with a tangled cord, and a row of TVs mounted behind it, all showing silent static. But the real kicker? The candy display. And not just any candy. Your candy. The stuff you used to beg your parents for every Friday night when you were a kid. For me, it was Twizzlers and Milk Duds as far as the eye could see. The curator will be standing behind the counter. His appearance is the only consistent thing, and he's exactly what you'd picture if I said video story owner from the 80s. Tall, kind of doughy, with this glorious curly mullet and wire rim glasses, black pants, black shoes, and this rust-orange polo shirt with Video Vagabond stitched over the pocket. It's like someone reached into the collective memory of video stores and pulled out the perfect stereotype.
Have a look around,
He'll say, rewinding a tape.
You've got 40 minutes.
Some get hours, some are never given an end date. I was given 40 minutes. Some say the time you're given directly relates to how the person in your photo died, but I have nothing to substantiate this. Here's where it gets important. You need to ask him about the rules, and make sure you thank him. The curator's big on manners, old school retail style. Thanks, man, is good. Dude, my guy, bro. He eats that stuff up. The more casual and friendly you are, the better he treats you. And trust me, you might need that goodwill later. Anything I should know? Technically, you don't need to ask him. But if you inadvertently break one of his rules and they change each time, well, I don't know, but I'm guessing it's not good.
Hey dude, I appreciate the question.
He'll say, flashing a toothy grin.
A few things.
He starts rewinding another tape while he talks, not looking at me, like we're just having a casual conversation about late fees.
First off, preview station's in the back corner. You can only watch one tape. No fast forwarding, no rewinding. What you see is what you get, in the order it's meant to be seen.
He puts the rewound tape under the counter.
And don't touch the screen, my guy. Some of these older TVs, you know how it is. Static electricity and all that.
I nod like this is completely normal.
Second thing, if you hear a tape rewinding anywhere in the store, just stay put until it's done. Don't move a muscle. Wouldn't want you walking into the wrong aisle at the wrong time, if you catch my drift.
He adjusts those massive glasses.
The store's got its own way of organizing things.
The whirring of unseen VCRs fills the silence between his words.
Third thing, and I shouldn't have to say this, but some people, man, no recording devices, no phones, no cameras, nothing. What happens in Video Vagabond stays in Video Vagabond.
He chuckles like he just made a joke, but there's something hard in his voice.
These tapes, they're meant to be experienced, not copied.
I remember all those Reddit posts about people trying to preserve evidence, how their accounts went dark.
And lastly,
he pauses, fishing another tape from under the counter.
If you see anyone else browsing the aisles, any other customers, former employees, familiar faces, just keep walking. People in here like to be left alone. In fact, I'd go the other way if I were you.
He sets the tape down with a solid thunk.
Oh, and one more thing.
His smile widens just a fraction.
Don't steal or damage any of my tapes.
The way he says it makes my stomach turn, like he knows exactly what I'm here for, what I'm hoping not to find.
That's all pretty straightforward?
He asks, already turning away to sort through more tapes.
Timer starts now, my dude. Happy browsing.
I appreciate it, I said, farming that goodwill.
Hey, no problem.
The first aisle I turned down was all true crime documentaries. Nothing too weird about that. Seemed like what you'd expect when you submit a photo of a murder victim. The titles were oddly specific, though. Lake Killings of the American Midwest. Unsolved Drownings, 1985 to 1995. Body Disposal Methods of the Modern Era. You can browse as much as you like. Touch what you want. Just put things back where you find them. The videotape covers are all garish and pulp fiction-y, usually displaying a caricature image suggesting what kind of film is inside. Blurbs are short and gimmicky. I picked up one of the unsolved drowning tapes, browsed the back. In the sleepy lakeside town of Cedar Hollow, Billy Adams had it all. Good looks, a winning smile, and a future brighter than the summer sun. But when his body is found floating in Crystal Lake, the police rule it an accident. His best friend Joey knows better. Something dark lies beneath the water, and it's not just the weeds. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and a thirst for the truth, Joey dives into a mystery that uncovers secrets the town would rather forget. But some truths have a price, and Joey's about to find out that the dead don't rest easy when they're pulled from the dark below. I remember thinking, oh, I'd watch that. I just placed it back onto the shelf when I heard it. The whirring sound of a tape rewinding somewhere deeper in the store. I froze mid-step, remembering the curator's warning. The sound got louder, then softer, like it was moving through the aisles. When it finally stopped, I looked down to find the entire section had changed, like reality had hiccuped. Now it was all home movies. The handwritten labels showed birthday parties, graduation ceremonies, all featuring Zachary. One tape was labeled Swimming Lessons, Summer '89. I reached for it, but movement caught my eye. Someone at the end of the aisle, browsing the shelves. They turned slightly, and I had to swallow a knee-jerk high as their eyes met mine. I swore I recognized him. Old, weathered. Mr. Doherty, whose daughter died in a car accident 5 years ago. Haunted, tear-filled eyes. I pivoted and walked fast in the opposite direction. Found myself in an area full of security camera footage. One in particular caught my eye. Murphy's gas station, July 15th. The urge to hide it behind another VHS was almost overwhelming, my hand already moving before my brain caught up. Then I felt it, that prickle on the back of your neck when someone's watching. The curator stood at the end of the aisle, still smiling, slowly shaking his head. One warning, it's all he gives. I moved on. Here's something they don't tell you about Video Vagabond. There's no clocks. Your wristwatch doesn't work either. The hands just spin backwards until they fall off completely. You might think you're great at sensing how much time has passed, but in here, time's just another thing the curator likes to play with. The next aisle made me wish I could fast forward through real life. Every tape had my name on it. Different ages, different years, but all me. Little League Championship 1992. The game where I broke another kid's arm during a slide into second. It was an accident. High school fight 1997, hunting trip 2001. Jesus, a whole shelf of my greatest hits, and I wasn't sure I wanted to know who'd been filming. Another rewind sound echoed through the store. This time when I stopped moving, I swear I could hear something else. Footsteps in the next aisle over, getting closer. The wet slap of bare feet on carpet. I stood absolutely still until the whirring stopped, trying not to breathe, trying not to think about who might be browsing just a few feet away. When I looked again, I was facing the staff picks section near the preview station. 3 tapes arranged perfectly. How to Get Away with Murder, a true crime analysis. Missing persons cases gone cold. Colton Lake After Dark. The last one didn't have a proper label, just a date. The date. And beneath it, in that same perfect handwriting, extended cut. The curator was right. You know when you found what you're looking for. The preview room is exactly what you'd expect. Threadbare carpet, plastic chair bolted to the floor, ancient TV mounted at eye level. My hands are shaking as I push the tape in. The VCR accepts it with a hungry click. The footage starts immediately. No static, no tracking lines, no countdown, just crystal clear third-person footage, like someone was there filming it all, like someone knew exactly where to point the camera. I watch myself step out of the shadows behind the gas station. Watch myself follow Zachary down that empty street, getting closer and closer until the sound of the pipe hitting his skull is cleaner than I remember. Crisper. The way he drops is prettier somehow, more graceful, like a dancer taking his final bow. I hadn't noticed that the first time, too caught up in the moment. My hands find his throat so naturally on screen, like they belong there. My face gets closer to the screen without meaning to, drawn in by the perfect choreography of it all, almost touching the glass. I catch myself just in time, remembering the curator's warning. Good thing too, because the figures on screen pause for a fraction of a second. The me on screen, the one straddling Zachary's twitching body, turns his head slightly, like he heard something, like he sensed someone watching, and for a moment, just a moment, I swear those on-screen eyes meet mine. The rest plays out like a highlight reel of that night. The careful way I arranged him in the trunk, the drive to Colton Lake Bridge, street lights painting strips of orange across his face, the methodical work with the hunting knife, the wet sounds, the garbage bags weighted with rocks, the splashes, 5 of them, marking where pieces of him disappeared into the dark water. I should feel sick, should feel something like remorse watching this. Instead, I feel excitement, pride even. Remembering the rush, the power, the perfect execution of it all. The fear doesn't hit until the screen goes dark and I realize other people can watch this if they know what to look for. Have watched it. The person who messaged me on Reddit. It shows everything that happened that night, the real story. My mind races, trying to think of ways around the curator's rules. Could I grab the tape and run, break it right here? But I remember those Reddit posts, those dead accounts, the way the curator smiled when he mentioned people trying to preserve evidence. No, I'm not that brave, or that stupid. My hands shake as I return the tape to its shelf. How much time do I have left? 20 minutes? 10? I head to the counter, plastering on my best casual smile. The curator looks up from an inventory magazine, waggles his eyebrows at me like we're old friends sharing a secret. Hey man, awesome selection you got here, I say, trying to sound normal. Just another satisfied customer. Must get a lot of people checking out these classics, huh? The curator grins, adjusting those massive glasses.
Some more than others.
How about the one I just got done watching?
That movie?
The curator says with a little laugh that sounds like VHS tape being unspooled.
Nah, man. Kind of an underappreciated classic. You should check out the John Benet Ramsey tape. Shit's so popular I had to make copies. But that little number of yours?
His smile widens.
Only been rented out once.
My throat goes dry. Oh yeah?
Yeah.
The curator replies, and he's no longer smiling. The fluorescent lights overhead flicker once, casting his face in shadow for just a second. When they steady, his eyes seem blacker. They say he knows what you want to ask before you ask it. And it's up to you whether you've got the balls to. Sometimes the curator takes requests. Sometimes he'll answer a question if he's in a good mood. And so far he'd been all smiles and familiarities, like we were old drinking buddies catching up. So I decided to go for it. I like your glasses, by the way.
Yeah?
He smiles back, knowing and crooked. He knows I'm buttering him up and he's enjoying it, like a cat playing with its food.
Thanks, man.
Any chance? I cleared my throat, looking down at my hands as they drummed a nervous pattern along the countertop. Each tap echoed through the store like a heartbeat. Any chance you remember who it was that watched that tape before me? It was silent for a long time. When I looked up, the curator was just standing there, staring at me with this little smile fixed on his face, completely still. Not breathing, not blinking, just watching. I remember holding his gaze, my heart in my throat, cold sweat erupting across my skin like ice water.
Huh,
he said suddenly with a cock of his head.
You've got some balls on you, kid.
I almost ran, almost hauled ass out of that store, hoping to God the curator wouldn't catch up with me. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew he would. Not without saying goodbye properly. The curator loved his manners, and something told me I wouldn't like how he handled rude customers. Then, after another long silence that felt like drowning,
Well, luckily for you,
said the curator, and the smile was back, wider than ever.
she was easy to remember. Total babe. Wouldn't give me her number, though.
He leans forward, those massive glasses catching the fluorescent light like twin moons.
Talia, I think she said her name was.
The name hits me like ice water in my veins, like lake water in my lungs. I know exactly who that is. Zachary's sister. Oh, cool, I reply, my voice hoarse. That makes sense. The final rule? Always thank the curator for his time. Always. I appreciate this, man. I continue, heading for the door. Great collection.
My pleasure. Oh, and dude?
The curator calls as I put my hand on the door handle. The metal feels slick, wet.
I've been trying to work up the nerve to say it, but I recognize you from the movies. Just wanted to say, I'm a huge fan of your work. Love the true crime shit, man. Real dark stuff.
His smile splits his face like a wound.
Keep it up.
I practically run outside, the bell above the door chiming one last time. The warm night air hits me like a slap in the face. For a second, I just stand there, gulping it down like I've been underwater. My watch says it's only been 25 minutes, but my legs feel like I've been standing for hours. When I turn around, the transformation is already happening. The neon sign flickers once, twice, then dies with a soft electric sigh. The clean windows cloud over like cataracts, decades of grime appearing in seconds. The fresh paint crumbles away in sheets, revealing the rotted bones of the building underneath. The movie posters curl in yellow, then disintegrate like they're being fast-forwarded through time. Then the whole building just settles, like an old house creaking in the night. Took me almost 15 minutes to gather myself, to remember how to breathe air instead of water. Walking to my car, my mind was already working. Can't destroy the tape, but viewers can be dealt with. Talia's seen too much, she knows too much, and I've gotten pretty good at making people disappear. Maybe I'll go back sometime, check out some of my other works. There'll be a new one to add to the collection next time I visit. After all, the curator seems to appreciate my work. If you're reading this on r/Video Vagabond, maybe you'll rent out some of my greatest hits too. But I wouldn't recommend it. Some tapes are better left unwatched. Some stories are better left untold. And if you're Talia, well, by the time you read this, I'll already be back at Video Vagabond. The curator and I have a new submission to discuss. A sister piece, you might say. Account deleted. Hello there, thank you for watching until the end. What do you think about the story? I feel like the foreshadowing and the revelation was great, revealing the protagonist as the actual antagonist. Maybe he will come for you too. Ha! Do tell me if you enjoy these type of stories. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.